Maria, 11 years old, vanished in broad daylight. In front of a corner store, beneath the blazing sun. Her mother looked away for just a few seconds, and when she turned back, no one was standing beside her. The white van without license plates had already driven off, silent as if it had never existed. No screams. No traces. No witnesses. 12 people had disappeared before her. Women, children, even a boy playing soccer in front of a church. All of them simply vanished in daylight. The police didn't investigate. The media didn't report. And the townspeople learned to stay quiet, because they knew, if you spoke up, you'd be the next to disappear. But this time, someone refused to stay silent. 3 days later, a man showed up, not with a warrant, but with fury. The Rock. And a few days after that, another man returned. Vin Diesel, the one who had once been convicted for a crime he didn't commit. He came back to find his only daughter. Both, coming from two different paths, collided with something darker than crime. A human trafficking network protected by officials, doctors, and those who believe they're above the law. That noon, the town of Little Pine burned like hell. Sunlight poured down on old wooden rooftops, spilling across the pavement where cracks stretched like dried blood veins. No breeze. No shade. And no one knew, that day would change everything. Maria, 11 years old, was a sweet, gentle girl. The whole town knew her. Every morning, she'd go to the market with her mother, passing by Mr. Stan's corner store to buy mint ice cream. That day was no different. Maria held her mother's hand with her left. In her right, she clutched a silver coin, a gift she treasured from her father. Her mother bent down to pick vegetables, turned away for just a moment, and Maria was gone. It all happened so fast it felt unreal. No scream. No struggle. No one saw her run. But at the end of the street, a white van with no plates was quietly pulling away. The side door was ajar, and inside, lay a tiny pair of pink shoes. Maria's mother panicked. She chased after the van. Screaming in the middle of the street. Someone. Please. Somebody help me. She's only 11. Maria. But no one moved. A man walking his dog quickly lowered his head. An old woman slammed her door shut. The people here had gotten used to disappearances. Because Maria wasn't the first. The last one before her was a Haitian boy who vanished while playing basketball behind the school. Before him, an Asian woman, gone right after her appointment at the local clinic. 12 people had gone missing in just 1 year. And the one thing they all had in common. No one was ever found. No case was ever truly investigated. 20 minutes later, a police car arrived. No sirens. No roadblocks. No crime scene tape. The sheriff stepped out. Eyes avoiding contact, he scribbled a few notes into an old notebook. When the mother broke down in tears, clutching his arm. He muttered a single line, cold and detached. We'll do our best. But sometimes, kids just want to run away from something. And that was it. He got back in his car, shut the door, and drove off. Others, those who had lost loved ones, watched silently from a distance. No one dared to speak. Not because they didn't care, but because they understood the unspoken rule of this town. The more questions you ask, the faster you disappear. 3 days after Maria disappeared, a black SUV coated in red dust crept slowly through the gates of Little Pine. No front license plate. No music. No horn. The man behind the wheel sat in silence. Eyes fixed straight ahead, as if he could see through the whole town. He stopped at the first gas station, but didn't fill up. Just sat there for a long while. Then finally opened the door and stepped out. His heavy boot landed on the dry, cracked dirt, leaving a mark as solid as a nail driven into the earth. A tall, broad-shouldered man with a shaved head and a black backpack. No one needed to ask his name, just one look and they knew, he wasn't here to visit family. He wasn't here to sightsee. He was here to hunt something, or someone. That man was The Rock. He used to be a federal agent. Years chasing international criminals. He'd kicked down drug den doors, cut off gun-running gangs. But this time, what brought him to this dusty little town, was personal. Very personal. His cousin, Tommy, had died here nearly a year ago. According to the report. It was an accidental overdose at work. A rushed file. No autopsy. No scene investigation. The Rock had been here before, had asked questions. Had broken a cop's nose for calling Tommy just another junkie. Then they made him leave town. But now, things were different. This time, he came with something he didn't have before. The silence of too many victims. He knew Maria wasn't the first. And he was damn sure, he wouldn't let Tommy be the last to die in vain. He drove slowly through the town, past the small market. The faded intersection, and stopped in front of the pharmacy, where Tommy used to work. The place was boarded up with thick planks. The glass door had been shattered. Now covered with a flapping piece of nylon tarp. On the rusted sign was a scribbled message, closed permanently. But what made the Rock stop and stare, was a faded bloodstain. Seeping at the corner of the steps, shaped like a small hand, as if someone had once clung there before being dragged away. He looked at the blood. Then lifted his gaze. Eyes scanning the alley behind the shop. Wind blew dust across the window. He murmured, voice dry and gravelly. They came back. And this time, I won't let them vanish again. He rented a room at a rundown inn called Hollow Pines Inn, a place where travelers came and went without questions. The innkeeper was a wiry old man, white beard on his chin. Eyes drooping like he'd long since grown used to pretending he saw nothing. The old man stared at the Rock for a long moment as he handed over the key. He didn't ask who he was. He just whispered. Almost under his breath. You here for the missing girl? The Rock nodded. And my cousin too. The innkeeper glanced out the window, then back again. His voice rough and weary. Best you leave before sundown. Around here, the truth costs blood. The Rock didn't answer. He just clenched his fist slightly, took the key. And climbed the creaking stairs to the second-floor room. Inside, the room smelled of mold and time. A ceiling fan ticked with every slow turn. The Rock dropped his backpack on the bed. Unzipped it, inside, a loaded Glock, a thick yellow folder, a few old photos, and a broken necklace. He picked up the picture of Tommy, a boy grinning wide. Hugging an old guitar in front of the pharmacy. You saw something they didn't want you to see, the Rock said quietly. Now it's my turn, to see it all. That afternoon, desert winds swept through Little Pine like waves of heat dragging sand and dust in their wake. On the old road that ran past the school, a motorcycle roared to life. Its engine echoing through the empty streets. The man on the bike stepped down. Shaved head, solid frame, sun-darkened face, and eyes bloodshot from days without sleep. It was Vin Diesel. He stood still in front of the rusted gate of the school where his daughter, little Lena, once attended 7th grade. The holiday flags were torn to shreds. The school sign cracked and faded. Barely showing the word middle. He didn't go inside. Just stood there, hand resting on the iron bars, eyes locked on the wall behind the third classroom. There, one section of brick was still bare. Vin slowly pulled a photo from his pocket. In it, he and Lena, she was about 9, stood smiling in front of that exact wall. In Lena's hand was a piece of chalk. Next to them was a crude drawing. A circle with a line through it, and 3 small dots underneath. Back then, Vin had asked her, what is this? Lena had answered. If something ever happens, if I'm in danger and I can't call anyone, I'll leave this mark. You'll know, right? Vin had just laughed, ruffled her hair. Even blindfolded, I'd know it's you. And now, the symbol had returned. Right there on that same wall, drawn in black charcoal or burnt wood, was the exact same sign. Circle. Slash. 3 dots. Not a single line was off. Vin's grip on the iron gate tightened. He didn't need more proof. Lena was sending a signal. She was alive. And she was waiting. Suddenly, behind him came heavy footsteps. A gray sedan pulled up near the school gate. 2 men stepped out, plain clothes, pistols tucked behind their belts, moving with the unmistakable posture of trained men. One approached. His voice laced with open threat. You're not allowed here, Vin. This area is under restriction. You've got a record, you know that. Vin didn't turn. He kept staring at the symbol on the wall. Like looking away might make it disappear. Then, slowly, he turned, voice low and hoarse, but calm. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here because my daughter used to go to this school. And, she just left me a message. The man stepped closer, sneering. A message? You think some doodle on a wall is evidence? No one here even remembers that kid, Vin. This time. Vin looked him straight in the eyes. Not with rage. Not with shouting. Just the dead calm stare of a father who knows time is running out. I remember, he said softly. And if she's alive, I'll find her. No one's stopping me. The cop froze for a beat. Then stepped back, shrugged, and drove off. Vin turned back to the wall one last time. His eyes were red, but not a single tear fell. Instead, he pulled out a small black marker, and drew a reply. 3 short horizontal lines. The signal he and Lena used to say, "Dad sees it." He placed his hand on the wall. Held it there for a few seconds. "I'm coming, Lena. Wherever you are, whatever's holding you. I'll find you." Then he turned, started up the bike. And in his eyes now, there was no shame. No stain of the past. Just a father. And a man about to blow apart everything this corrupt system had buried. As the sun began to set behind the dead trees. Another man, The Rock, was following a faint lead from the testimony of a surviving girl. That trail would lead him underground. And down there. 2 men who seemed like strangers would finally meet. In a hell no one dared believe was real. Little Ivy, the only known survivor, sat curled in the corner of the makeshift infirmary, eyes wide open, unblinking. For 3 days since she was found, she hadn't said a word. Just held tightly onto a porcelain doll with a shattered head. But when The Rock entered, sat beside her without a word, simply offering a bottle of water, Ivy slowly turned her head. Her eyes were filled with fear, but behind it, something else shimmered, something like fragile hope. He didn't ask her name. He just said. "There's someone who needs saving, right?" Ivy gave a faint nod. Then, with trembling fingers pale as paper, she reached out and began sketching a rough map on the wooden table with a pencil, squares for rooms, a few arrows. And a rectangle marked with the letters CLN 9. But then, she stopped, shaking her head. "I don't remember all of it," she whispered, barely a breath, "but I can show you." The Rock leaned in. And in that moment, something shifted in his eyes. For the first time since returning to this town, he realized, his cousin Tommy might have once heard a cry just like this, and no one had listened. "Take me there." They left the infirmary close to midnight. Ivy wore The Rock's old military jacket, swallowed up by its size like a shadow. She led him along a dirt path behind the graveyard. Past a line of derelict warehouses, once welding shops from the World War era. "There's a door here," Ivy said, pointing at a cracked wall. "I crawled out through it. I heard them say, shipment goes out tonight. There's a way down inside." The Rock exhaled hard. He crouched, pulled a crowbar from his backpack. And gently pried the wall open. A dark gap appeared, reeked of dampness and the burnt stench of fried wires. He turned to Ivy. "You need to go back. It's not safe in here." Ivy looked at him. Eyes welling with tears. "My friends are still inside, they didn't make it out." The Rock tightened his grip on his pack and gave a small nod. "I'll find them." He went in first. A long ramp sloped down into the basement. Soundproof foam lined the walls. Hidden cameras mounted in the ceiling. The space below was cold, eerily silent. Along the corridor were metal doors. Each numbered, CLN 7, CLN 8, until he saw it, CLN 9. Secured with dual keypads. He hadn't even reached it when. Clack. The sound of metal scraping echoed inches from his ear. Reacting instantly. The Rock rolled sideways, bang, a bullet ripped past his arm, grazing the muscle. He ducked behind a pillar, gun drawn, eyes scanning. No shooter in sight. But he knew, he wasn't alone down here. As he prepared to move again. A shadow dropped from above. A vicious hook kick slammed into the shooter, knocking him out before he could reload. Vin Diesel emerged from the dark. Eyes bloodshot. Hands stained with fresh blood, probably from the man he just took down. "Next time you wander into a snake pit," he rasped, steady and dry, "bring a map." The Rock stood, breathing hard. Gun still raised. "Vin Diesel. Didn't expect to find you down here." Vin tossed the sniper's weapon aside, cold and blunt. "I'm not here for you. I'm here for my daughter. And I know she's being kept in this goddamn bunker." The Rock paused. Then slowly nodded. "Didn't think we'd be on the same road, but if you've got intel, spill it." Vin scanned the hallway. Then said low. CLN-9 leads even deeper. Below that, is where they keep the ones they're not done with. Cold. No lights. The bastards don't even go down there, unless it's time for a shipment. Just then, a metallic creak rang out. The door to CLN-9 cracked open. A little girl stepped out, hair tangled, face smudged with dirt, eyes wide with terror. It was Maria. The Rock rushed forward. Caught her as she stumbled. "You're safe now. We're here to get you out." Maria whimpered, shaking. "No, don't go yet, there are more, deeper in, past the red door." Vin turned to the Rock. His face steeling with resolve. "We can't leave. If we walk out without all of them, then we're no better than the ones who put them here." Vin had just led Maria out of the CLN-9 corridor through a side ventilation shaft. When he returned, he found the Rock standing motionless before a massive steel door, marked in red. T1, holding for processing. No words were needed. They both stepped inside. The air was thick with the stench of disinfectant, rusted metal. And something else, sickeningly sweet, like decaying flesh soaked in chemicals. Flickering yellow lights pulsed overhead. Inside, around a dozen women, mostly young, along with 3 girls. Roughly 12 to 15 years old, were bound to metal chairs with plastic zip ties. Some wore hospital gowns. Others had nothing but their undergarments. On their wrists, QR codes were taped on with duct tape, many shredded from struggling. A girl with tangled black hair, skin and bones, opened her eyes and looked at Vin and the Rock. But she didn't scream. She just shook her head violently, tears spilling in silence. Her voice cracked from exhaustion as she whispered. "They think you're guards, they wear black too, tall like you." The Rock knelt beside her, cutting the zip ties. He tore off his coat and draped it over her shoulders, his voice firm but gentle. "You're safe now. We're getting you out. Every single one of you." Vin quickly searched the nearby cabinets. Finding a mechanical key that unlocked the rear door, leading to an air duct tunnel running parallel to the maintenance corridor. He flicked on a small flashlight and spotted an emergency evacuation map chalked on the wall in red. An arrow pointed to Exit B, maintenance hatch. Vin pointed to it, his brow furrowed. "This leads out to the field behind the cemetery. But it's one at a time, crawl space only." The Rock nodded, voice solid. "We need a lead. Someone strong." The thin, black-haired girl raised her hand, slowly pushing herself to her feet, breathing hard. "My name's Erica. I used to work in the medical wing. I know how to open the gas valves and disable the sensors. But I'll need 5 minutes." Vin narrowed his eyes, then gave a sharp nod. "Do it." As Erica moved to prep the escape, the Rock tore strips of white cloth from a bedsheet, handing one to each girl. "Tie it on your left wrist. If anyone sees that color, they'll know you survived." Vin pointed to the air duct, his voice low and urgent. "Crawl straight. Don't stop. When you see the light, turn left. There's a drainage hole that leads to the forest edge. My people are waiting there." One of the girls looked up, teary-eyed. "What about you two?" Vin glanced at the Rock, then turned back, voice cold as steel. "We stay." The Rock nodded, eyes sharp as blades, voice steady. "Because the next one we pull out, is his daughter. And my brother." The back hatch creaked open. Erica led the women and girls into the ventilation shaft, one by one. Before she crawled in, she turned to Vin and gave a small nod. Her voice trembled with emotion. "Thank you." Vin clenched his fist, rasped. "Next time, don't thank me. Just survive." The hatch closed. Darkness returned. The Rock exhaled, voice low and firm. "The red doors at the end of the hall. My brother once told me, they always double-lock it. Because no one's supposed to go in there." Vin nodded slowly, eyes darkening. "That's where they keep the special shipment, VIPs. Or high-value kids." The Rock grabbed a small map, pointed at the final mark, speaking like a command. "We need to kill power, alarms, cameras. Everything. I'll handle electrical." Vin unsheathed a knife, eyes flashing with fire. "I'll break the lock." "Same as always." Together, they stepped into the final corridor. On the walls, cameras tracked every one of their movements. And deep beneath that bunker, the one running it all was watching from behind a wall of bulletproof glass, eyes fixed on every move they made. Ahead, the corridor split into two paths. The left led toward the maintenance sector. The right, a wide hallway glowing with soft orange light from the wall-mounted lamps. Before they could choose a direction, bang. A steel door slammed shut behind them. 3 figures emerged from the right-hand corridor. Dressed in black uniforms, faces hidden behind half-masks. Sidearms strapped to their shoulders. In their hands, stun batons and combat knives. Vin clenched his jaw, gripping his blade tightly, and muttered. "We've been watched from the start." The Rock tightened his fists, voice low and hard. "No more guessing. Someone's been pulling strings from the beginning." The first guard charged, his baton crackling. The Rock sidestepped the wide swing, blocked it with one arm, then countered with a brutal left hook to the jaw, crack. The bone snapped audibly. The man crumpled, collapsing to the floor. Vin was already on the second one, parrying the knife with his left, driving a punch straight into the throat. The man staggered but reached for his gun. Vin stomped on his hand. Then hoisted the guard's body and slammed him into the wall, clang. The third guard, taller, heavier, drew his sidearm, aiming at the Rock. Vin shouted, "Down." The Rock dropped immediately. Vin hurled his knife from nearly 4 meters away, thunk. The blade lodged into the guard's shoulder. He screamed, firing wildly. One bullet grazed the Rock's cheek, cutting it open. Blood trickling down his jawline. The Rock didn't stop. He lunged forward, shoulder-checked the man off balance. Then pivoted and drove his knee into the guard's gut, slamming him onto the concrete floor. The man groaned, still clutching his weapon. Vin rushed in, stomped on his wrist. Yanked the knife from his shoulder, and snarled. "You're just lapdogs at the gate." The Rock pinned the man beneath his knee, teeth clenched. "Who's giving the orders?" The guard gasped. Voice trembling from pain and fear. Behind the maintenance wing, sublevel 3, central surveillance room. "Mr. Callahan, he runs everything." Vin froze. His eyes darkened. He repeated the name in disbelief. "Callahan." The Rock furrowed his brow, muttering to himself. State senator, always preaching about child protection. Vin spat next to the man's head, growling. "Loyal little attack dog." The Rock stood, wiped the blood from his cheek, and nodded sharply. "Let's move. Now we know who we're hunting." They didn't look at each other, but walked shoulder to shoulder. They knew, this wasn't an investigation anymore. This was an execution of the entire system. The hallway lights dimmed. Only the sound of boots echoed against the cold concrete floor. Behind a wall of bulletproof glass. Callahan kept watching. And smiling. The door to sublevel -3 opened. Inside was a different world, sterile, cold, modern to the point of being soulless. Bulletproof glass walls. Rows of surveillance monitors flashing every corner of the bunker. In the center, a stainless steel control console. Every corner armed with sensors and security locks. And at the center, Robert Callahan. He wore a crisp gray suit, a red tie, slicked back hair. His eyes showed no surprise. No fear. He had been waiting for them. 2 large guards stood on either side of him, clad in tactical armor, hands resting on holstered pistols and electric batons. They didn't speak a word. Vin froze for a moment. Eyes wide with disbelief as he recognized that face, the man who once gave passionate speeches on national television about the future of America's children. His brow furrowed. He stepped back half a pace, voice raw. "You." Callahan stepped forward calmly, smiling like a game show host. "Welcome to the coordination center," he said, his tone light, almost inviting. "You made it here faster than I expected." The Rock clenched his fists, voice low and sharp. "You're the one running this whole goddamn hellhole." Callahan shrugged casually. "I call it a population cleansing mechanism. You can call it whatever you like." Vin stepped forward, pulling his gun, but instantly, the 2 guards lunged. The one on the left struck Vin in the ribs with his stun baton, crack, Vin staggered. The guard pinned him to the wall, hammering punches into his chest. Vin fought to stay upright. Blocking blow after blow, until he was slammed into a steel cabinet, head snapping back. The Rock punched the other guard, but the man was bigger, faster. A sharp kick sent the Rock crashing backward. The guard jumped on him, choking him with both hands, eyes bloodshot. The Rock growled. "Vin." Vin stumbled up, roared, grabbed a metal chair and smashed it over the guard's head. The man reeled sideways. The rock surged up and landed a brutal right hook to his face, splat, blood splashed across the bulletproof glass. The second guard aimed his gun. But Vin lunged, spinning into a high roundhouse kick that knocked the man straight into the control panel. Both men stood, breathing hard. Clothes torn. Hands bloodied. But still standing. Callahan didn't flinch. He applauded, slowly. "I'm impressed," he said. "Truly impressed." Vin stepped forward, blood dripping from his temple, gun pressed to Callahan's forehead. His voice broke, hands trembling with rage. "Who the hell do you think you are? God? Deciding who gets to live and who doesn't?" Callahan replied, voice chillingly calm. "I'm not God. I'm just helping the world stay cleaner. Every child who vanishes means one less potential criminal. The statistics prove it." The rock stepped forward, teeth clenched. "If you pull that trigger, they win." Vin shouted. "He killed my daughter." The rock grabbed his shoulder, eyes fierce. "And he'll pay for that. But through justice. You kill him, no one will believe us. But if he lives, we've got the evidence. The whole country will see who he really is." Silence. Then. Vin lowered the gun. His hands still shook, but his eyes had changed. No longer blinded by rage. Now filled with the determination to make the truth hurt more than a bullet. Callahan froze. For the first time, his smile was gone. The rock cuffed him with tamper-proof restraints. Vin stepped back, breathing hard. Suddenly, the alarm blared. On the monitors, camera after camera went dark. Vin narrowed his eyes toward the main door. "They're coming." The rock gritted his teeth. Turned to Callahan. "They're here to silence everyone. Him, and us." Just 10 minutes after Callahan's capture, the entire town of Little Pine entered Level 5 emergency lockdown. Every exit was sealed. Checkpoints sprang up at all major intersections. Backed by armored vehicles, rifle-wielding troops, and thermal scanners. A satellite jamming team was deployed, media, personal cameras, phones, everything went dark. Not the police. Not the military. Black Shield, a private security conglomerate that specialized in dirty work. They arrived without insignias, without warrants, without media. Their only directive: erase all evidence. Leave no one alive. Underground, The Rock and Vin were dragging Callahan through a tunnel that led to the abandoned medical wing. Above them, helicopter rotors howled through the sky. Armored vehicles rumbled to a halt in front of the deserted hospital, where a small group of civilians had taken refuge. Up top, inside a basement converted from an old barbershop. The people of Little Pine gathered for what might be their last stand. Only a few dozen remained, the elderly, single mothers, those who had lost children, or spouses. All bore wounds, physical and emotional. But this time, they were done being afraid. Erica, the girl who led the earlier escape, was setting up makeshift traps using gas canisters and wire-triggered igniters. Old John, the mechanic, wiped grease from his hands as he loaded shells into a rusty shotgun. Someone smashed bricks and stuffed broken glass into beer bottles, primitive Molotovs. In the corner, Maria's mother clutched an old handgun. Her hands trembled, but her eyes burned with rage. She whispered, voice trembling with grief and fury. "They think we're sheep. But even sheep grow fangs when their young are stolen." Down in the utility tunnel, Callahan was tied to a steel pipe. Vin shoved him to the ground, panting from the fight. His voice cracked with fury. "How many more? How many victims? How many places are like this town?" Callahan wiped blood from his mouth, sneering. "You think you've won? This was just an outpost. One knot in a web that stretches across 3 states." The Rock stepped forward, grabbed his collar, yanked him close. "Where's the data?" "Everything, videos, files, names." "Talk." Callahan growled. "You can't stop it. The system doesn't live in one place." Vin drew his knife, pressing it to Callahan's neck. His grip tightened. "We don't need to kill the whole system. Just burn its rotten heart." Callahan was still smiling. But this time, his eyes betrayed fear. The Rock pressed harder, voice now like thunder. "What floor? Which door? The access code?" Callahan hissed, lips trembling. "Sublevel -5, behind the cold storage." Double steel doors, emergency override code, 639 beta. Vin looked at the rock. A silent nod. They both knew. This was the endgame. The rock turned, speaking slowly, as if pronouncing a sentence. Then let's begin. We're going to blow this whole machine to hell. Callahan screamed behind them. You'll die. No one escapes. They'll come for you. They'll burn this town to the ground. Vin didn't look back. He just said, voice cold as steel. Then let them try. To clean up the ashes. Sublevel -5 was completely isolated. Fireproof steel walls. The air cold as a freezer. Every footstep echoed through the metallic corridor, a constant reminder. This was the heart of hell. The rock shoved open the double steel doors Callahan had described. A long hallway led into a massive room, rows of server towers blinking red, storing years' worth of data. Videos. Files. Names. Faces. Networks. The moment they stepped inside, alarms shrieked. And from behind the rows of equipment, a man stepped forward. Clad in black combat armor. No name tag. As tall and broad as the rock. His eyes, cold as steel. Vin tilted his head, stepping back, growling. Who the hell are you? The rock's voice dropped low, never breaking eye contact. Reed. Black Shield Commander. The bastard who murdered my cousin last year. And called it collateral damage. Reed smirked, stepping forward slowly, voice full of contempt. That cousin of yours? He screamed your name when I crushed his throat. Kid went out like a dying rat. So, what now, Rock? Here to settle a score. The rock didn't answer. He stepped forward, fists clenched. Vin moved to follow, but the rock raised a hand to stop him. No, he growled. This one's mine. Reed cracked his neck, grinning. Fine by me. I like tag teams. But breaking bones one-on-one is even better. They clashed like wild animals. No warning shots. No mercy. Only fists, grunts, and the sound of bones cracking. Reed swung wide, the rock blocked and countered with a knee to the ribs. But Reed laughed, caught the leg, and hurled him across the floor. The rock slammed down hard, sliding several feet. Reed approached, leaned in, voice like a snarl. There's no justice down here, Rock. Only me, and your corpse. The rock surged back to his feet, blood pouring from his nose. With a roar. He charged, throwing a flurry of 3 heavy punches. Reed staggered, one blow catching his jaw. Blood sprayed. He stumbled, but laughed through the pain. Hits like a girl. Your cousin had more spine. Rage exploded. The rock grabbed Reed, slammed him into a server tower. Zap, sparks flew as circuits fried. Reed flinched from the shock but spun. Driving his elbow into the rock's throat. He doubled over, coughing. Vin shouted from behind. Rock. Move. He hurled a steel rod, clanging off the floor between them. Just enough distraction. The rock rolled aside, gasping for air. Reed advanced, drawing a military-grade knife from his back. He lunged. And stabbed the rock in the chest. Blood burst outward. But the rock, caught the blade. Kept it in his chest. His other hand grabbed Reed's throat, pulled him in close. Through clenched teeth, he growled. You son of a bitch. I don't need laws. I need justice. And you're about to choke on it. With a primal roar. The rock twisted. Slammed Reed to the ground. And strangled him with the strap from his own combat knife sheath. Reed thrashed. Screamed. Then weakened. Crack. Silence. The rock let go. Blood soaked his shirt. Vin rushed over, catching him. You breathing? The rock nodded weakly, lips bloody, voice barely audible. Not done yet, still work to do. Vin propped him against the wall and stepped to the server core. He pulled open a secondary panel. And extracted a data encryption chip. Muttering, he inserted it into a handheld transmitter. I've encoded the core evidence. Once this device finds a satellite signal again, it'll broadcast everything. The rock nodded, breath ragged. The rest. Can't let it fall into their hands. Vin armed an explosive and fixed it to the server's heart. The light turned red. He backed up, watching the entire control room pulse with warning lights. Then pressed the trigger. His voice was low, as flames danced in his reflection. Evidence goes out. The system burns. Boom. A deep, heavy blast shook the sublevel. Data. Images. Records. The entire operational core, gone in fire. Above ground, a small transmitter, hidden in a fake ID badge Vin had planted, lit up. Its signal pulsed outward, reaching every civilian relay tower in range. The end was near. But so was hope. The underground bunker shook violently. The Rock and Vin had just cleared the command center when part of sublevel -5 erupted in flame, the server core engulfed. But the entire bunker didn't collapse. The blast had been controlled, designed to avoid damaging the victim holding areas. Above ground, the mercenary squad spiraled into chaos. Signal jamming equipment glitched. The central command post went dark. And just as they scrambled to re-establish control, the counterattack began. From alleyways and basements, the townspeople, led by Erica and the surviving group, opened fire. Molotovs soared through the air, smashing into armored vehicles. What seemed like a desperate defense, was a trap. Old John rammed a barricade using a tow crane. A group of single mothers, crouched behind dumpsters, fired shotguns and buckshot into the disoriented mercs. Black Shield's formation shattered. Some fled. Some were captured alive. Just as the tide began to turn, sirens howled in the distance. Federal helicopters descended. FBI. Homeland Security. Joint federal strike teams flooded in, drawn by the broadcast signal Vin had launched minutes earlier. Black Shield was completely surrounded. The mercenaries were disarmed. Callahan, still bound in the utility sublevel, was dragged out in chilling silence. News cameras captured him being shoved into an armored vehicle, surrounded by a sea of lenses and microphones. 1 hour later, a medical tent was erected in the open field in front of the old church. Rescue teams began sweeping through the remaining intact bunkers. In one sealed-off room, formerly used to store special shipments, medics found multiple children still alive, locked inside pressurized holding pods. One of them, a brown-haired girl. A strip of white cloth tied around her left wrist, the symbol of survival, was the first Erica recognized. Her name was Amy. Vin's daughter. Erica rushed forward, unlocked the chamber, wrapped her arms around Amy and carried her out. At the medical tent, Erica paused, pointing across the clearing. To a man being bandaged in the distance. Broad-shouldered. His face scarred with ash and blood. Amy looked up. Her lips trembled. Daddy. Vin looked up. His eyes darkened, then lit with fire. He pushed the nurse away and stumbled off the gurney. He ran to her. Fell to his knees. Pulled her into his arms, crying out in a voice choked with love and disbelief. I'm here, Amy. I'm here, you're alive, oh God. She burst into tears. They collapsed into the dirt, wrapped around each other. Vin shook, whispering, shouting, into her soul. I came back for you. I'm sorry I was late. I'm so sorry. The Rock stood in the distance. His shirt was singed. Blood still on his hands. But his eyes were calm as still water. He watched Vin hold his daughter. Watched children being carried out from the dark. A mother collapse in relief. A blindfolded boy raise his hand, reaching for someone familiar. A federal agent approached, hand outstretched. We owe you an entire takedown. Would you consider testifying, maybe even leading this to Congress? The Rock shook his head. That's not my job anymore, he said quietly. He turned, walking past Vin and Amy. The girl looked up, face smudged with dust, but her eyes shining like morning sunlight. Vin wiped his tears, looked up, called after him, voice still trembling. We did it. The Rock paused for a second. Wind tugged at his torn jacket. He didn't look back. He simply said. We can't save everyone. But this time. At least we didn't stay silent. Then he walked away. Into the fading light. No one called his name. No camera caught a clean shot of his face. But the story spread. That a man, once marked by fire, had helped bring light back to this town. Little Pine survived. The children were rescued. The guilty, dragged into the light. Vin, once branded a criminal, had found his daughter. And his honor. The Rock, no longer wearing a badge, still stood for justice. They weren't superheroes. They were just men, who refused to stay silent. And if you're hearing this story, remember. Justice doesn't fall from the sky. It needs people. People who act. Who speak up. Who dare to face the dark. So share what you feel. Say something. Comment. Speak up. Pass it on. Because maybe, just maybe, it'll be the spark someone else needs out there.